like getting projects from Odesk. I think it was 30% or something. So, but the idea that we have there is like in Upwork, the projects are usually very small. I think the average size of a project in Odesk or Upwork is $800. At least that's what I heard. So it's kind of tiny, and you're competing with all the Indians and Pakistani guys that drop the prices. And like if you put a project in WordPress or something as an example, it takes 5 minutes and you'll have 200 proposals. So we thought, okay, maybe we can make something for larger projects, attract big projects in the range of $10,000 to $100,000, and then match that with teams instead of freelancers. Because if you have a bigger project, you're not going to work with 3 guys in different locations, I believe. So a larger project would run with a team, run by a company with management around it. I usually get a lot of questions about this platform. For now, this is my stock. So it's not really working as I had envisioned it. I had 2 co-founders who joined and they left now. But I think the potential is really big because whenever I explain the idea, it's like everybody's positive. And on the provider side, we got within a year after launching 600 companies who registered. So that worked out very well, but like now it's kind of an imbalance because the client side is not working as good. So we even closed the registration now because it doesn't make much sense to add more providers. So in the last 2 years, as Natalia said, I wrote several books. I think yours, your name is not on it. You wrote in...
The first one, Not to Screw Up, and then
right.
Culture, Communication.
Exactly. So it's 6 different themes, and this was the first one we wrote because it's like more of a generic thing. Because like if clients from the West or Western Europe look at outsourcing and nearshoring, they often screw up. I mean that's kind of a common thread, especially if they talk about India, by the way. And then I wrote how to get prepared, also for the client side, to sort of educate them on how to go about this. How to organize about culture, communication, and people. So you can download those books for free, actually, on that URL, and you'll have to leave your email address. And then this year I started with Ekipa Academy, which is also why I'm doing the workshop tomorrow. So I thought, if I get a lot of experience on how to deal with distributed teams, how to do offshoring, nearshoring, grow an outsourcing company, and I started teaching those things in the online academy and also in live workshops. And I regularly speak on conferences now. I just came from Poland from an agile conference, so then I speak more about how to manage distributed teams, so not so much about outsourcing, but I'm just experimenting with this. So you can go to this ekipa.co/academy if you want to know more about this. The growth cycle. So the way I visualize it is that actually, if you throughout the life of your company, you go through 4 stages continuously, and as you go through it, your company starts growing. It's a very simplified vision of a company, but for me, it kind of helps to visualize how my business works. So I think everything starts with sales. That's why most people are here. I think like you want to sell, and you think if I go and sell and I get more clients, then my company will grow. And if your sales guys are good, then your HR department gets a problem because they'll sell the projects, HR has to allocate the right people or attract more people, and they get the headache. And then if they do their job well, your operational side has to start working well because the guys have to deliver, and that's not always easy with a new client because the sales guy overpromises, this guy doesn't attract the right people, and then operations get the stress. That's a negative view. And then if the operation delivers well, then your marketing department makes, like they get an easier life because you get testimonials from clients, you get good feedback, and with good marketing, the sales guys get an easier life again and they can sell easier, and this way you grow. That's the way I see it. And I also believe that you always get stuck at one of those points. So, it's important to sort of think, where am I stuck and what can I do about it? And in preparation for the workshop that I do tomorrow, I was also thinking that in most cases, the thing where you think you're stuck is not the right one, but it's a step before that. Because if these guys don't sell, it's probably because they don't have the right support. Yeah? And if these guys don't get the right people, it's probably because these guys they sold a Java project while you have .NET people on the bench. So I think it's usually the step before where you have to look for the solution. At least that's how I see it. I made it in the airplane. It's a simplified view on why I believe we're stuck in each of those blocks. But on the marketing side, I think that, outsourcing is a sort of commoditized product now. You're competing with everybody around the whole world. And you know, previously you had businesses or service companies also in IT that were servicing local clients. So even in the IT industry in Holland, you would have local providers who would provide, you know, the desktops and the hardware, and they would also make some software, but it was all local. And right now, it's all globalized. So you're competing with anyone around the globe. And in all the countries, there's IT providers. So it's not only India, Pakistan, and East Europe, but also Argentina, maybe even Canada for the US, for example. So I think the problem is that most companies are all selling the same thing. So like one thing that I'm always surprised with, I get a lot of emails from providers from everywhere, and usually it's the same story. Like if it's an Indian email, it's always, we're the leading provider from India. You probably get the same emails, but we're one of the best in India, and this is what we do. But do you want to talk? You guys send a little bit different emails, but it comes down to the same thing. You know, usually it's a little bit shorter, but it's always a list of competencies, the technologies, and then an attachment with some projects or client testimonials. And like I get, I think 3, 4, 5 a day, and I think all the clients in Western Europe and the US get the same thing. So it's very hard to differentiate. So we're all selling the same thing. On the sales side, it's sort of related, but you know, everybody's trying LinkedIn emails, and you just shoot out all those emails, and 1 out of thousands might reply. And I don't think that's the way to grow. It will work, you'll get a few clients, but it's not the way to grow. So you get stuck there. And then on the HR side, we're also all hunting for the same people. I mean, this is also a tough one, but there is stuff that you can do about it. But if you're a smaller company, you just hire an HR person, and he goes to the market and tries to find the programmers. It's the same way. Everybody's trying to fish in the same pond, and it's very hard to attract that talent. So that's also something to get stuck on. And we're delivering the same thing in the same way. So most companies work on probably fixed price models. You say, give me the project, I'll make an estimate, and I'll deliver it to you. Some companies go to Agile or Scrum and play with it, but still you'll probably use a fixed price contract, and I think everybody's doing the same thing. So there's no innovation there either, so it's also hard to differentiate, and you get stuck at that point as well. So how to get unstuck? I thought of making this model. I've made it a few weeks ago, but this is basically the path that I'm teaching on this Ekipa Academy. So it has 4 modules. It's about marketing and sales, strategy, culture and communication, and delivery. And tomorrow in the workshop, I'm going to go through all of those steps except culture and communication. So in each of those blocks, I've got tools that I use. Some I've invented myself, some are from other people, but tools to help companies think about these 4 topics that I've just spoken about, and the 4 in this path. So on the value proposition or the marketing side, I always see marketing as value proposition, because it's about, what are you bringing to the marketplace, and how are you going to communicate that value that you've defined. And I use the business model canvas in the training tomorrow from Alexander Oosterwalder. Who knows this? Okay, great, so I bring something new. So this is a canvas. Alexander Oosterwalder is a Swiss guy, and you can, if you Google this, you can find a lot of information about it. So you can download the canvas for free and print it out, and you have instructions and videos and PDFs. But the key thing is to stand with your whole team or your management team, maybe the whole company if you're not that big, and then work with post-its through all the blocks. So you could, for example, start with, you don't see, but this is the column value proposition. So you could start brainstorming about the different value propositions that you're having now, that you're offering now, and new potential value propositions that you could start launching. And then if you figure out that, it has an impact on all of those blocks. So you need to decide, okay, what kind of customer segments am I going to approach with the new value proposition? So you should define that clearly. What country are you going to? What kind of companies are you, what industry are you focusing on? What size of the company? And then if you, for example, say, I want to approach those clients let's say you want to target hospitals in Germany, you have to think about the cost structure. So what does it mean, like if you want to open an office in Germany, what does it mean for my cost structure? Do I need to hire people? What kind of partners do I need to get access to the market and also deliver to the clients? What kind of key activities do I need to employ? So you can map out the whole business model, and it's more to get you out of the normal way of thinking and create new value propositions. then once you figured out what kind of value proposition you're bringing now, or what new value proposition you could bring to the market, I always use this, and this is a method that I came across 6 or 7 years back. It's called the Rockefeller Habits, and this is one of their tools. So this is a sort of strategic or execution framework that has a lot of tools, but the one-page strategic plan is a management tool to define your strategy. So it actually, on the left side, it starts with the long term, so you've got your core values, you've got your mission, why do you exist, you've got a BHAG. Who knows what a BHAG is? No. So the BHAG means big, hairy, audacious goal. So this is like you set a goal in 10 or 25 years, I want to go, like an example is, Microsoft once said we want to have a PC on every desk. So this was a very big goal, long time, and they managed to do that. So it's something to get you out of your comfort zone. Instead of staying a small outsourcing company, you make this big goal so you can start moving. And then it goes on to goals for 3 to 5 years. So this is more like, if you have those long-term goals, what do you need to achieve in 3 years to make sure that you can make those long-term goals? So if you say, okay, in the end we want to dominate Western Europe, as an example, you might say, okay, in 3 years we want to have an office in Germany and we want to have an office in Sweden, right? These might be the 2 big chunks of work that you have in front of you. And then you translate that to yearly goals. So and one of the keys of this is actually to have always 2 to 5 top priorities. So you can see that there's only 5 blocks. And this guy, the founder of this is Vern Harnish. He always says you need to have 2 to 5 rocks, or big priorities for the company. Because if you have more than 5, nobody knows what to do, and in the end of the year you don't accomplish anything. So I think that helped me a lot, actually, to have this in mind. And you translate this to shorter term goals, so you define a quarterly plan, you define weekly plans, and also daily plans. And so the exercise that we're going to go into tomorrow is to figure out how you're going to fill this plan. You need to do this with your whole team, but what are you going to fill? And then once you fill this, and this takes a couple of days if you do it the first time, and it has iterations, it's sort of supported by a communication rhythm. So what he preaches is you need to have a rhythm of communication where every year you have the management team that gathers, every quarter you have a management team that gathers, and the management team then defines what kind of priorities they're going to focus on for the year and the quarter. You have monthly meetings, weekly meetings, and daily meetings. So what he's actually saying, you need to meet very regularly. I think it's, for me, what I like about this is somewhat similar as Scrum. Who uses Scrum? Okay, only a few. Okay. So the key, one of the keys of Scrum is to have communication all the time. So you have sprints, you have daily meetings, and you meet up all the time to align. So that's for the software team, but for the management team, I think it's also important to have this kind of rhythm in it. And this is my own invention. So this is a distributed team canvas, and this is a tool that I've used in my own company, and this is what I'm teaching on the conferences also. It's a tool to align your team with the client. So if you start a new project, if it's very small, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. But if you've got a project for several months, or you've got a dedicated team working for a client for longer term, you could do a workshop with the client where you're going to go through all of those blocks. Yeah? And then, so you could start, for example, with, again, putting it on a big wall and using sticky notes. And together with the client, you're going to figure out what kind of process you're going to use to collaborate. So the client might say, okay, we use Scrum, I don't know, as an example. And you say, we don't use Scrum, so you could start discussing how is the process going to look so we can collaborate well. And if we do that, how are we going to measure the performance of the teams and also the individuals? So you can define together with the client what kind of KPIs you're going to use to make sure that they're happy. You can also define things to build team spirit, because one of the keys that I have found, if you have a client far away, you never meet the guys, it's not really stimulating, it's not going to work. So you can, by doing this, you can address this to the client and maybe make a travel plan or some other games to break the ice so that the teams are going to collaborate with the client better. You can also define all the roles and responsibilities and define what kind of tools you're going to use. So it's basically an exercise in alignment, because I've been sort of moving the blocks, but like this one I've recently changed, because I found from the workshops that in a lot of cases knowledge transfer is one of the big issues. I had standards there before, coding standards, but I changed it. So I'm continuously trying to optimize the canvas so that it's really 8 blocks that address like the key blocks for a successful collaboration. So how you could use this is, I could actually send you this canvas. You can also download it in Ekipa. You can use this, you can print it, you can work with a client to go through it. You can even do it online, so that, because not all, the client doesn't always want to come to your office or meet up, but you could also do it virtually. You could put it in you have Canva as a tool, or you can put the canvas and then do it as a sort of online sticky note session. I also thought about sharing a couple of books that have really helped me to develop myself and my company. So this scaling up is actually the method that I've just shown you, the one-page strategic plan. So it's Vern Harniss who wrote it, and scaling up is the follow-up to the Rockefeller habit. It's kind of launched last year, I think. I really recommend this book because it's very thin. It's really written for entrepreneurs. He has, like in every, I'm not sure about it, I read the Rockefeller habit, but he has a chapter of 1 page or 2 pages as a summary, so you can read it within a few minutes. And if you're interested in the topic, you can go through the whole book. And it has, I think, 7 topics, and it's an easy read, but it helps you to really get a view of how to grow the company. It's all about growing. Who knows Lean Startup? Okay. So Lean Startup is a method from the US. It sounds like startup, but he's actually using this for larger companies as well. And the basic thing in Lean Startup is that if you want to launch a new product, or you want to change a new, like you want to bring a new service model or value proposition to the market, you go through a loop of build, measure, learn. So you build something. If it's software, you build a certain product, a minimum viable product. Then you launch this to the client, and you try to generate feedback from the clients on the product that you've launched. You try to gather data, learn from those data, and then you build something else. So you go through this loop, and this is the way to launch new products or grow your own business. So it's a bit more thick than this one, but if you Google it, there's a lot of video materials about this as well. Who knows the 4-hour work week?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's so you guys are lazy. That's for me. Actually, I read this 10 years back, and that the title is somewhat misleading. I think, well, it makes the point, but I got a lot of inspiration from it. I'm actually going to live in Bali for a year, and it's also due to this book a little bit. But I believe what he writes about is ways to optimize your work, to become more effective, to become more productive, so that you could, if you want, work 4 hours a week. Not a day, by the way, it's 4 hours a week. So he gives you a lot of systems and tips on how to do this. And I think it's mainly about mindset, changing your mindset. So it's not really, it's not maybe a business book, but more a life book, I would say. And who knows this? The first? Okay. So this is Stephen Covey. It's very old management stuff, so I think I read this 50 years back, but I still use it on a daily basis. And the key thing in this book is that he writes, you need to continuously think about what the #1 thing is that you can do right now to have the most impact on your life goals or your company goals, whatever it is. So I always have this in mind when I start my day, or when I have a certain moment when I wonder what should I do right now. And it helps to prioritize. He has a sort of metrics with 4 quadrants in it. If you Google that, you can, I think, find the quadrants, and this helps you to think about, like, I think it's quadrant, you read it, right? So quadrant 1 is, you have important, I think quadrant 1 are the important things, but they are urgent, and then quadrant 2 are not important, but, and not urgent. No, sorry, they are important and not urgent. And what he basically says is most people spend their time in the quadrants where they have not important things that are very urgent. So you try to, put off the fires. Or you're just filling away time. You're checking email, or you're checking your phone all the time. And then, like, most effective people spend their time in quadrant 2, which are the long-term things, like going to a training or going to this event to learn about something new, or making a strategy with your management team. So it's about the very important thing, but they're never urgent. So you consciously need to decide, okay, that's what I'm going to do today, because normally you sit on your mobile phone. This book is more for how do you build relationships. It's about, probably nobody knows it, but I liked it. It's, okay. You read a lot of books. So it's about how to build relationships with people. And this one is actually, I read it, I think, one time back, but the central idea is that when you start giving away things to people, be it knowledge, be it gifts or whatever, and you start thinking about other people instead of what you can get from a relationship, things start coming your way. So it is for salespeople actually, but it's more of a mindset book. So I thought let's have some discussions about where you guys are stuck and what we could maybe share some experiences between us or maybe among each other about how to get unstuck.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, that's also okay.
First of all, thank you for lecture, and I have a question. You said that after MBA, after 1 year and a half, you started your company, yes? And I'm interested, actually, where did you get your first clients? You had no reputation on the market?
We didn't.
Huh?
You mean for that first startup, where we didn't get any clients? That was the problem.
No, you said that you started to deliver some projects in India and then to Eastern Europe, to Odessa, for example. At that time period,
right.
From where did you get that client?
I just picked up the phone.
So it was just total cold calls and cold emails?
Yes, because I didn't have any network, so I just thought, actually my idea was to start not in IT, but with desktop publishing. So I thought, because everybody's doing programming outsourcing, I thought let's make some, like if you make a brochure or some travel book, you can have a desktop publishing person in Eastern Europe who would work for the graphical company. So I just started calling people, but then I found out it didn't work. And I don't know, I just started calling people. And I think in the beginning we had some sort of Dutch version of Odesk. I think that's where I got my first project.
From Odesk?
Not on Odesk, but it was freelance.nl or something.
Freelancer.nl.
Yeah.
I usually also use it.
You use it, okay.
Yeah.
And it works?
I'm not sure yet because I started it about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Just had communication
But you
with
write in
the
Dutch?
clients. No, not in Dutch, in English, but we have a partner in Netherlands, so if someone doesn't know English, I just forward
Right.
it on.
Okay. That makes sense. When I started using that, it was 2005, and there were no outsourcing companies on it. They were just looking for freelancers, so I was the only one approaching them with another proposal. So I think, but it might work. I don't know. It's just, but again, I think it's shooting. You try to.
Yeah, but there are not so big amount of projects if you compare with Upwork. So.
No, it's small. Yes, that's true. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so exactly. So I'm preaching don't shoot out emails and cold call because it's not effective, but I think it's the only way to start because you have nothing else.
Yeah, sure. And one more question. You also said that everything in every company is almost the same, like marketing, sales, operation, and so on. And so how to be unique? So of course I know that you can talk about this topic for hours, but still maybe some recite for this.
If I knew that, I would be really rich. I don't know. I mean, it depends on the company. I think that's the core challenge you face. You need to find out what makes your company unique and how can you differentiate and come to the market. But again, it's very hard in this market because there's so much supply. I think the key is to find something maybe outside. I mean, if you, for example, look at a product that you've built for somebody and then try to build a product out of this, or maybe you pick one solution you built for a client and then start to grow to focus on only that solution, then you could create something more unique. Like if you build, I don't know, and again the example of an ad for a hospital or something, and you built it for an American client and you start productizing this, then you could focus on approaching only hospitals in a specific country, and then it will spread. And they will know, okay, you are the company that knows how to build apps for hospitals. Instead of saying, okay, we do outsourcing.
Everything.
But it's hard also to make such a decision because you don't know if apps for hospitals will work.
Yeah, and you also, I looked at your site and there are a lot of things about service model ideas. Yes, about service model. So can you please tell a little bit about it?
What do you mean with service models?
I thought about these ideas about service model you wrote on Ekipa, I think, or on your...
I'm not sure which, like you read a blog or something?
No, it was on the site Or maybe on your company site, not Ekipa, but the other.
But I didn't want to repeat what I've done in the webinar, but you're the only one who has seen it. I think you meant this model where I have the 3 trends,
yeah.
You want me to show?
Yeah.
Wait. Alright. This, you mean? Huh?
I'm not sure actually. I think it was on the short video, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'll see. Yeah, so the way I see it is that most companies kind of start by selling hands. Because you believe, okay, what makes us unique is we're in Ukraine, we have a lot of talented people, and we're cheaper than people in Western Europe or the US. So you start selling hands, and this is a very good model because it's lucrative for you. Because I love it. If you have contracts with dedicated teams for 4 or 5 people that last months or years, you earn a lot of money from that, and you don't have any headache. If you do projects, it's different. But this is also what everybody tries to sell. So I think this is sort of outsourcing 1.0, where most companies start. And then in 2.0, you get what I've just said. You have a specific solution, and you try to focus on that solution and have a customer segment and in a country, and then start focusing on that. And then you get recognized for the solution and also within the market, because hospital market is small and people will talk about it. And I think the third part, and if you look at the bigger companies like Sequem, you can see that they made the same move, because when they started, their magic formula was have your own dedicated team. But if you look on the website right now, they offer a lot of solutions, and they even talk about innovation. And I think this is like, innovation is where service companies should eventually go, but it's also hard to get there. And if you offer innovation, you could do a workshop with your client, for example, where you start thinking about new products together with the client, or you take a certain problem that they have within the company and then brainstorm solutions. But then you're all the way in the beginning of, you're not selling a software solution or saying we can develop this for you, but you start generating the ideas. So I think this is actually where eventually, if you manage to get there, you can make the big difference. And this is not like most software companies don't do this. They don't go there.
Can you give some specific examples of
I'm
innovation?
not sure if I have the slides here, but no, I don't. Yes, let me see. I have it in this one. So this is from the side of Sequem. For me, this sort of proves that those 3 stages are there, because what they say, like before I checked their website every few months, and they said dedicated teams, blah blah blah, for years, and now they say from ideas, optimization to delivery. So that means that's what they're concretely offering their clients. And I also heard they get a lot of, like when they get a new client, they'll get them to their office in Ukraine, and they put a whole team around it to start brainstorming about that specific project that they have. So the offering becomes much more rich than just tell me what to build and then I'll build it. On the site you even see those 3 stages: own development team, custom software development, and consultancy and training.
So it means they provide like kind of consultancy to the client, yes?
Yeah, but consultancy is kind of ambiguous, you don't know what it means. But I think in this case it means that they're going to help the client to solve business problems. So they will help to come up with the ideas for it. Like software might be one of the solutions, but they'll come up with it. For instance,
a customer wanted to make some project in one way, but after discussion they can offer him to make it in a completely another way, yes, to achieve better results.
Yes, I think that's where they are. I'm not sure, but I think that's where Sequem is.
But Sequem is not outsourcing, it's outstaff company more, and they focus on it.
I think that's what they did, but I'm not sure if they still do that.
Yeah, they still. It depends on the project. So, if the company who arranged the project to the Sequem has own management,
Right.
then it will
And they
working fine.
self-dedicated.
Yes, but if they taken the management from six,
It was 50%, like it was a really big team.
yeah,
I don't know the details, but I do know that they do. I mean, it's not black and white, but I think if you really sell only the dedicated teams, you tell the client, okay, you've got your product, you need a couple of people extra, we'll have that team for you, and you manage them. Right? That's the main model that Ekipa, I think, has, and I love that model as well. Everybody, but if the client comes with a product, then they'll work in another way, and I think then they come more to consultancy.
the main thing it depends on the project. So if you want to make the product growing, then you must be not a project manager but product owner.
Yes.
So in this case, you will push the project to grow.
So you mean they have the product owner role in Ekipa?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. But then you get to sort of consultancy, I would say. Right?
Yeah.
I think this is also an interesting example. This is one of the big Indian companies, HCL. And if you Google that, you can even see a video of how they do this. But they really make a physical lab in the company, in the client office. So what they basically sell is, okay, we've generated new innovation for hospital ABC, and we can do the same thing for you. And they sell sort of an ideation lab or an innovation lab. So they just, and that's the setup. And they'll put the whole room in the office of the client with post-its and canvases, and they put some consultants of HCL in the room along with some client people, and they start brainstorming about innovation. But this company, in the end, the major cash cow for HCL is the same as what we all want, selling hands. You know, in the end, because from those innovations, they will try to sell as many Indians as they can to develop the software that came out of this innovation lab. So I think that's maybe also an example for this. Let's go on with questions. Maybe it's more.
It's very interesting to hear about starting the company in India. With what you have started, how, if you could tell, please.
So first I took the map of India and then I drew a line in the middle because I didn't want to go to the north and I didn't want to go to Bangalore or Mumbai or Delhi. And then I shortlisted 3 cities, Cochin, I think Trivandrum and then Mysore. And then I started Googling and I found that there was a guy a Dutch guy doing a traineeship in Kochi. Then I thought, okay, I'll go to Kochi. So that's like, I don't know. And then there was an old friend of mine who quit his job and then he went there. So he went there, I think we went there the first time together in January 2008. And we spent 2 weeks finding an office. And then in April he moved there. And he hired the first programmer that started in June. And then from there we grew it really from nothing. And then in the end of 2008, after half a year, I went there to live there for a while. But, yeah, it was a nice experience. Yeah.
Was it hard to find first people, first specialists?
It's not hard to find people, it's hard to find good people. I think that took 3 or 4 years before we were in a good level.
How did you identify that developers is good enough for?
I didn't know. And the friend that went there didn't know either. So in the beginning we were really struggling. Because you have no image, no brand, nothing. And then over the years, and then we hired some HR people who also didn't know. But if you had a few.
Was from Holland or
from India?
No. So the friend of mine, he was a Dutch guy, but he spent the first 1.5 years there, and after that I replaced him with only Indians. But what I always did is to have a few local guys, like a few Westerners who would live there for a while. So we took trainees. Maybe that's an interesting idea. Also, we hired trainees through ISEC, which is a student organization worldwide. You can place an ad for a trainee. So we took people for 9 to 12 months from Sweden and Germany who would live there for that period, and then they would sell to their own country. So we would give them a phone and a computer, and they would just start calling them. And so the side benefit was that we got some sort of European culture over there, and that attracted a lot of Indians. So that worked.
Do they all speak well English? not.
I understand that, but if you talk to them, you won't, I guess. I don't know, I've learned that it takes about a week or 2 weeks to get used to the accent. If I talk to an Indian guy, I understand all of them now. So it's just it's a habit.
Hugo, how do you control your remote teams? And what about quality? Like, can you measure the quality, or if it's still on a high level?
We're still talking about India, or
Yeah, like remote teams. Remote
In general.
teams.
how do you measure the quality of a remote team?
Yes, and how you control and monitor them.
How do you do it?
Well, I'm asking you first.
I'm supposed to get all the answers. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's always a tough question, because I think if you use Scrum, then the key is to have velocity.
Yeah, but if you are growing fast, if you are scaling, right?
Yeah.
And you have, let's say, for instance, you have more clients than people, but you still try to manage everything, and then the quality is really getting bad, not worse, let's say.
So you have too many clients and too few people to deliver on
I
it.
mean, like, for instance,
Yeah.
then, or how you just control people, or how you monitor the quality, how you can just make sure that, because Scrum is a new, let's say, in technology, like, for a couple of years. Like, let's talk about, like, when back 2008, 2010, how, maybe you have some
I have,
tools
so, I don't know, I really don't believe that you can grow a company if you work on a traditional waterfall fixed price model. It's not going to work, because I think if you have 10 projects, 8 will go well, then one you finish with a lot of effort, and then one gets a real disaster. That's my experience. It's very hard to manage the quality if you do fixed price work. And also to deliver on the client satisfaction, because you have to say, okay, this is the date, this is the price. It's hard. So I'm totally convinced that the way forward, if you want to scale, you need to have Scrum. And you need to get bigger projects as well, because if it's 1 or 2 people working for a few months, it's not going to work even with Scrum.
if it's a 1, 2, 3 people working like lifetime.
Then I think Scrum is the way, because it's, you get more flexibility and engagement from the client, and they sort of form one team. So you don't get us versus them, client, us, but it's sort of one. Because the product owner is part of the team, and that's the client, and you might have a proxy product owner over here, and then the Scrum Master and a few developers, and they work really as one team. But but quality it's sort of subjective, right?
People ask about like KPIs, about like some measurements, how you can measure, and you're supposed to give numbers. Only with numbers you can understand whether it's better or it's at the same
so
level.
who decides? That's the big question, right? One thing that worked in our company was, at a certain point I thought about the same question, and I actually thought the only thing that's important is that the client gives me feedback on that they say the quality is good. So what we did is, for every, like if it's a dedicated contract, we had a sort of survey with 5 or 6 characteristics: code quality, communication style, proactiveness, and the client could also decide on the sort of measures that he found important, and ask them every month to give a rate of 1 to 10 for each developer.
But okay, how many clients have built this? Because usually they
Well, but that doesn't matter, because if the client says you deliver shit, then you say, yeah, but I ask you every
usually
week.
they say that they deliver shit, even if they're satisfied. They don't say that they're satisfied. I mean, like they don't have time to fulfill this service.
Right. So the other thing that's true, and not everybody feels it, but still, I think the fact that you offer it helps you to change the discussion, right? Because you have offered it, and if he doesn't give you the feedback, what can you change? And the other thing that I've worked well with is to have a person that is sort of a process manager. So we have one guy or girl who's always managing, as a process manager, several teams or several projects, and this person is not inside the project. So the only responsibility he or she has is to make the client work well with the teams. So it's sort of a coach. And that person gives, every week has a Skype call with the client separate without the team, and asks, what do you think about the collaboration, what kind of issues do you have, and oftentimes we also ask on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you about the collaboration. And if you ask that every week, and again, client might say, I'm not going to give you that, but
it's better than just
or you'll see it coming, you know, when trouble hits the fan, and you'll see that it comes, and that helps a lot, because oftentimes, especially if you work fixed price, you have to wait weeks or months before you can deliver something, and in the beginning it's always good, and the client says, I'm happy, but at a certain, like, they don't always tell it's not going that well, you don't see it, so if you ask every week, you'll get more feeling and you can act.
What about the Kanban? Do you work with it?
You know, one thing I found is that Kanban is sometimes used as an excuse not to do Scrum and just create some sort of mess, but I think some teams work with it successfully.
Like, we have a few projects, but
Yeah.
it's fine, because like it gives to client the power to say this feature I don't need now, stop the develop, and I need,
Yeah, you have
and
more
I sell
yes.
already this feature.
Yes.
And we develop every day, like
Yeah.
deploying the new version every day, and client happy.
Yeah, that
So
sounds good.
he not need to wait in like 2 weeks to finish all this
Yeah.
sprint to get there.
So I think then you gave the answer, it works. But I think, yeah, I mean, it can
But
work.
you're not working with this.
We don't have projects in that, but I hear a lot about it. Like, for example, yesterday, this is more big, like, yesterday I was at a conference with a lot of people from Intel, and this guy said that he used a Kanban board on, like, they had 15 teams working globally, and they used a Kanban board to define the epics for very large
yeah.
projects, and then the teams will work with Scrum, and then you have sort of a team in between with a team lead, and that team lead would decide which epics would go to each of the teams, or to his team. So they combine Kanban with, but I don't hear that many teams that use Kanban for the development, but this sounds like a good example.
What do you think? Maybe we can make like a short break, because one
Yeah.
hour is part some refreshing.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan.
Okay.
Then I can drink my
Then let's make like 10 minutes break or like 15 minutes.
Growing and like 50, 100, you know, that's big.
Well, I've never had to hire 50 or 100 people at the same time, but
But what's your practice? What's your point of view on optimizing this, recruiting talents, you know, all these things? Apart from the academy, because I figured that you build the academy in order to kind of attract people as well, maybe, in a way, but
I'm not sure yet. I'm just experimenting. I mean, this is like sharing the knowledge about outsourcing, about distributed work, that kind of thing. It's not so much to attract people.
Okay. But what's your point of view on challenges in HR for scaling?
Yeah, I don't know. I have one slide about it. I think that the key thing is to build a certain culture within the company that really attracts people. Because you need to hire, like if you're unknown and you have to hire 50 or 100 people, it's going to be impossible, even if you hire 5 HR people. Because I think a lot of people, especially talented programmers, who can choose a job anywhere, they will come only if you have something unique that binds them to this company. Right? And also, people will stay if you have that. So what's like I've never managed to really get that into my Ukrainian operation, but in India we sort of got a real sort of European culture which makes people want to come to the company and also have a hard time to leave again, because in India, for example, most companies are very hierarchical and have a boss telling you do this, do that, while we have a very free, open culture, and as soon as people have worked in that, they don't want to leave again. So I think this is mainly about culture, not so much about being good at recruitment, or hiring a lot of pretty girls to recruit programmers. More. There's one good book about the Zappos, from Zappos, Delivering Happiness.
Yeah, thank you.
So if I understood correctly, you started your outsourcing company from stage 1.0, so like directly outsourcing.
Where I would even say that my bridge is still to a large extent there.
So do you now on the third stage?
No.
And do you think it's you can bring to go to this third stage with people from India? I know because there is a lot of rumors that it's not a rumor actually, that the Indian people produce not a good quality code. Of course, there is like good programmers, CEO Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft.
Yes.
But all these good programmers already moved to USA. But
well, that's an issue. Yeah.
So what about, is there any good people in India where you can go to this product stage, then you can give a good solution and ideas to platform and so on?
I would say yes, and it's hard to find, but again it ties back to culture. You need to have a certain culture where people have the freedom and sort of guts to come up with new ideas. Because of course there's like that 1.2 billion Indians, or 1.1, I don't know. There's a lot of smart guys there, but in a lot of cases it's about sort of mentality and also the big companies attracting that talent. I mean, Microsoft has huge offices in Bangalore and they try to attract all the talented people. But yeah, I mean, I think in any country you would be able to create an innovative department or an R&D. There's a lot of companies who have R&D departments in India as well.
Is it difficult to hire a good programmer in India? Is there like statistics about different countries?
You know, my personal view is that in India, if somebody comes from university, they actually know nothing. Whereas here, if somebody comes from university in Ukraine, they have, I always think there's a gap of 2 or 3 years.
It depends from university.
It depends, yeah. And it depends on the person, but in general. Yeah, sure,
it
but
depends on person,
sure,
not on university. If person wants to get something good, some knowledge, he gets.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if you get
I'm
agricultural technical, so it's not so easy to have a good level.
If you came from
agricultural technical.
That might be an
But
issue.
not very good.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's in India, for example, the IT industry is also seen as a career. So a lot of families say, okay, my kid, they want their kids to go to an IT job, so they send them to university, and those people see it as a job, not as their passion. And here, it's more a choice. Same in Western Europe. In Holland, it's very hard to find programmers because nobody wants to do it. Nobody goes, like, there's 2,000 or 3,000 people every year that come from university with an engineering degree, because nobody chooses it. But I think the ones that do are really passionate about technology, and the same here. And that makes this difference, I think, when somebody comes from university for 2 or 3 years.
I think it's changing here as well.
Probably.
Because now everyone sees that
So the families
IT
also,
guys
yeah.
and developers,
Okay.
they are not, and everyone wants to.
Right, and it makes sense because they earn 10 times more than the average, so, or 20. But I think, you know, you can never really, this is stereotyping. If you have a large population, you can always find good people and a lot of bad people. That's everywhere, I think. Any other questions? Maybe we can start with a question of Maxime. You had an interesting one. Yeah, you said basically you have a platform somewhat like Ekipa.
Yes, it looks like Ekipa platform, but it's mostly for freelancers and teams as well. And my question was, maybe you can give some clues how to communicate with potential customers, because we have no portfolios, we are under NDA. We cannot show any developers sitting up front to me how to communicate with the customers and get the project.
Right. So I was just thinking about this now, and I think in the end of the day, it's about building trust with the client. And you don't build trust if you have some portfolio and send it from far away, but you need to face the client, go out for dinner, and build a relationship. Because if they trust you as a person, they actually don't care about the portfolio or the people, because they'll give you the project. So I think that's...
Yes, but it's very hard to do it remotely.
Yes, it is. And I think also that's why such platforms as you've built and like Ekipa are very hard to get off the ground, because
You should travel.
I think so, yeah. I mean, that's if my personal stuck with that platform is that I thought if I create something like Upwork and you create very high quality profiles, people kind of flock to it online, right? You start doing SEO and start writing blog articles, sending out emails, and then they'll come and see something unique and they will post a project, but nobody does that. So I think the only way to make it work is to have sales physically where you talk to the client, meet them, and build a relationship.
So this is the only way to show.
At least that's my conclusion. And probably it's not the only way, but if you search on Google for the way, there's a HBR article or for a business review about the startup of Odask, like how they got started. And it was a service firm, so they did sales. They were actually staffing, so they faked it in the beginning. They just had a person who would take the request, and then they would take freelancers from Ukraine and then put that to the job, and then from this they grew, and then they built the platform.
I would like to answer your question a little bit maybe. It's because I've been doing it together with a team in Vignette. They were working together with some Dutch people actually. So I'm Dutch, so yeah, what I was actually doing was more or less like I was introducing them also to the culture, also to the language, and it's a giant gap. The time I came here in Ukraine, I was really facing like a cultural gap still. I was in Europe. I've also been going to Vietnam for a while, and that was like a giant gap. but still, it's like if you're here, there's still this gap. So what I was teaching them also a little bit more was more or less like how it is to be in Holland. And I found out, for me, I knew very little what it meant to be Ukrainian. And I also found out they almost didn't know anything about how it was what could be Dutch. The only thing people know about Holland most of the time is like, you go to Amsterdam, you smoke weed, and for the rest of the time, yeah. But sorry, but it's but most of the time when I say I'm from Holland, the first thing they say to me like, I've been to Amsterdam. Yeah, you haven't been nowhere else because you went to the coffee shop. But there is much more to relate to a client, and if you really want to go down I'm thinking if you really want to go deep down into giving somebody some kind of something special, you want to be special. That's what you want to be. You want to be. It's like already has been said. Everybody is offering the same thing, so you need to be the special one. Why do I need to hire you, your group, your team, as the team who's going to represent me, who's going to make the stuff for me, which I can talk to? I remember that I knew some people that were dealing with Nepal, and they were saying like, you know what? If I was doing stuff with Nepal, I needed to say every single little detail. If I make one mistake, and even when there was like a programmer sitting there who's been doing that so many times and already knew this will not work, he would just make the same mistake because I said it to them. Because they don't have this kind of thing. So if you really want to make a difference, learn, feel, know who your customer is. It's like the art of war. Sun Tzu, he said it himself. Know yourself, know yourself, know your clients, know your people, and then at that moment you really will win. You really succeed. But you need to know it, and that's why you need to get inside the culture. You need to know the people. You need to know what they are doing. There was even like a giant discussion between Heineken Holland and Heineken France, because when the people from France came, they got in Holland, they got like a glass of milk during the lunch and like a sandwich with cheese. And in France, it's like it's not allowed. It's
Well, I think it's only in Holland that this happens.
But still, in France, you go out, then you first sit and you talk about your family, and you talk about all those kinds of things and all that stuff, and then you get some wine, and then you get like all the things that are happening, and somewhere at the end, at the dessert, you start to talk about the finances, about the money, and about the things like that you really want to talk about. And right now, it's like, if you really want to do something special, you really want to get a contract, be special. Just be totally special and get those people in and know who you're dealing with. And that's a thing. For me, I think, like one giant.
Easier said than done as well.
Sorry?
Easier said than done, but well,
it's maybe easier said than done, but still,
You need to try.
If you don't try,
Well,
You know,
got the
why?
best idea.
Take
Not
Apple,
right.
take Steve Jobs. You know what he did. He did the most craziest things. I've seen a speech of him and what he done. Dropped out of school, went into certain kind of classes, went into calligraphy classes. That's why all the designs were so beautiful and all that stuff. But he did something special, and that's why when people do something special, then they get there. But you need to do it. And of course, it's easier said than done. But still. Nike said it well. Just do it. Sorry?
I just put a slide about Holland to support it. I think it's like, I think also like maybe if you go to the US, the style of hiring companies is different because you know they won't do the long thing that you just said about the French. They'll just tell you, okay, what do you want? And if you have a meeting, that's sometimes the first thing they say, tell me what you want, just to reduce the time you're spending, and they go. Right, yeah, and if you know if they have a certain project and they find you, or by coincidence you write an email on the right time, then they'll say, okay, here's a project, let's give it a try. And if you screw up, they'll just go away and they don't care. But I think these are some typicalities. I think Europe is really different because every country is different. Like French and Dutch are completely different. So if you go to a specific, like you need to choose a certain country and then really invest time to get in there, and then it becomes building trust. And maybe a platform like yours or Ekipa doesn't work in Europe. I don't know. Maybe it's more American.
But TopTal working perfectly in the United States.
Yeah, but not in Europe. I haven't heard anybody hired a TopTal programmer yet.
But they especially focusing on the United States
Yes,
because
yes.
TASO has a lot of
Right.
contacts in the United States.
Yeah, so maybe those models are only applicable over there. By the way, if you go to a Dutch, you say you need to pay $10,000 for a Ukrainian developer, then I think you would just, I'll buy a ticket and go to Ukraine myself.
Well, I could relate to this remarks regarding France because now, up to that, I can really understand how we got this really big contract with a French client because our CEO came to the restaurant to meet our potential French client. And we were speaking about an hour about cultures, families, everything. And just in the end, there were some other Ukrainian potential contractors standing in the line, but they were for an hour speaking about some really not related things. And in the end, they mentioned something about the contract. I was yes, we proceed with you, just this small talk for an hour, not related to the business at all. And we had this contract, really, really big one.
Yeah, but if you do it to Dutch, they'll be like, oh my goodness, what are you talking about?
But we also have this kind of chit chat. Maybe less long. Yeah, don't go out for lunch. If you go straight to the point,
it's going to do business first and after going to sauna.
And what about TopTal? What makes it so USA focused?
Okay, the CEO and founder Tasso Duval has a lot. It's not first his startup. He arranged maybe 1 billion for a few projects, so he knows how to cook in this environment, and he decided to make own outsourcing company, and he did it like this.
But I think that key is also sales, because I've tried to register as a client sometime, 2 years back, and I heard the same story to somebody else, and I stopped at step 2 or 5 or something, and then there was a guy who sent me an email, added me to Skype, and within 1 minute, really, literally. So they are, if there is a lead, they'll jump on it. So it's also a sales-driven model.
Mm-hmm.
You still need to, they have people also in Europe, I think, who face the client so that they can actually build trust. It's not here's the portfolio of the profile of the programmer, but first they build relationship and then they'll...
Maybe in the United States working more the name, Tasso Duval is founder of few startup, so he knows how to do it.
I worked for an American franchise, and they were actually sending trainers to Holland, and the way they were training us, it could never ever happen. What they were learning us, we could never do that to a Dutch person.
Why?
Because it's this Hi, how are you doing? Nice of you to join us. Oh yeah, come inside, please sit down. Yeah, please put your shoes over there. It's so nice that you came. You know, if I do that to a Dutch person, they really go like, you know, we in Holland we have a saying like, doe maar normaal, dan ben je ook gek genoeg. That means like just behave normal. You're already doing crazy enough. so and if I do that to a Dutch person, they really go like, oh my goodness, get away from me. You know. So that is the difference. So that's who are you dealing with, and even the person from one part of America and the other part of America. You know, it's like, it's huge. So know who you're dealing with. It's do you know the SWOT analyze? You like,
you need to know the market where you started to
Yeah,
work.
of course, but yeah, that's what you're doing when you're dealing with that. You know, just analyze it, look at it. That's what I'm saying. If you already have like, there was a book also, the Power of the Story, and this book was actually about a hotel. And this hotel, they were actually, not only about, but there was a story about a hotel. This hotel, if you come inside this hotel, they remember your name. They put you inside a computer. If you do it in Kiev, or you're going to America, and you go into the same hotel, your name is inside it. They remember your drink. At that moment, they actually are delivering an extra service. And that extra service makes it actually more that other people are booking this hotel in every country they go. That's why they are successful. And
It's a small thing.
It's a small thing,
Right.
but it works. You know, if I come inside somewhere and they say, "Hi, Marco, hi, nice to meet you. You want to have what orange juice?" Yes, dude. Thank you. Okay, sit down. You know, and you know, chicken legs perfectly. You know, it's like, so then that's the difference. And of course, I totally agree. It's easier said than done. But it's still, if you have like a whole giant range of people and they all are trying to face competition, people. So where do you need to cut on? What do you want to give? And then afterwards, of course, you need to deliver the product. And
I think we have another question.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Hugo, we are almost here from sales. So, can you please tell a little bit more about sales process in your company? So, how many sales specialists do you have? What work good? What work bad? What maybe a sales instrument do they use? So, just to have an overall understanding.
So first of all, I would like to say I'm not that good at structuring sales. Like one of the weak spots that I've had in my company was really to be a good sales manager. And right now for Bridge, I'm not doing anything. So I sort of it's managed by an Indian guy now.
So how it was in
right, but
Bridge?
a few things that have worked. What I've said, the interns, like what we did was to get those ISEC trainees to India and sell to their own country.
They will answer emails and calls.
Yes, but of course they were native speakers. So like if a Swede calls to a Swede and then says I'm calling from India, that's already unique. But what worked there is one of the guys that came as a trainee in 2009. He went back to Sweden and continued. So he's still working for us. So that was actually but it worked on. I tried to replicate that, but it didn't work. But he built actually the Sweden, like more than 50% of our turnover comes from Sweden now, thanks to him. So that worked pretty well. And
how many sales managers did you have in Bridge?
Well, usually I was doing it, but I tried to hire sales guys who would be independent and work on their own. So
like
I just no employees. Like in Holland, I had employees. And 2 years back, I thought, okay, I'm going to hire a sort of right arm or a guy who can help me on marketing and sales, so that I can let that go and not think about it anymore. So I got a guy that worked at T-Mobile, some hotshot manager, and I thought, okay, he can solve it. But I wasted a lot of money on that. So he worked for me for 9 months or 6 months, and he didn't bring anything. So I find that maybe the hardest part of growing a firm, to find right sales, because it's so hard to judge whether a salesperson is good, and also to have some sort of culture within your sales team where everybody is continuously doing the cold calls, sending out emails, and making that work. Maybe you need an American guy to do that, because I think they're really good at that. But yeah, I think that's all I have to give on that front. But it's also, you know, and what, for example, in Sweden, what is the thing, and it's the same in Holland, it takes a lot of time because you have to get your first clients, and a Swedish client wants to know about other Swedish clients that you've worked for. I mean, if you come to Sweden and you've got a Dutch client and you say, I've worked for those guys, nobody gives a shit. They want to hear about companies they know, so it takes time. And especially in a country like Sweden or Germany, the sort of decision cycle is also long, so it's a long-term investment, you need to be patient. But I think also, like, you need to decide, okay, I'm going to go to that country and then invest all. Let's try with a project of 2 months, and if that works out well, we can continue. But if you tell somebody, like, you have a lack of resources, you have a vacancy, we could provide you with those people, that takes more time to convince them. But if you have them, they stay long.
Can you tell a little bit more about events? About events, channel, are you attending events? Maybe you can advise some interesting events?
In Holland, you mean, or
no?
More about?
Yeah, in Europe or America, somewhere.
I don't know. I go to a lot of agile conferences lately, and those are usually, you know, there's a lot of big companies coming there. That's, I think, the general thing. If you go to conferences, there's usually a lot of big companies. I went to the Outsource People conference, and you know that? Yeah. I mean, it means I like that actually. The atmosphere was really good for.
Maybe some interesting events in Europe. Some IT or startups?
Yeah, I think you need to look at each country. Like in Holland, for example, you have some, it's called Outsource Magazine. So they have a magazine, and they have, like, there's a sort of publishing agency around it. So they publish this magazine, but they also have events where all the outsourcing companies come. And it's very, as a provider, it's very expensive to join them.
So do you use this channel, like sales channel? To find clients or partners?
I would say that's actually the only real way to make it work in Northern Europe, to go to events, but to show your face every time, to meet people, to build relationships, and not cold call, because
and do you use it? For your company?
Yes and no. Again, actually, I fired my last sales guy in Holland, so I'm not involved in sales at all anymore. We used to do that. We used to go there, but I also did a lot of cold calling, even the last few years. Still had my sales guys just keep going on.
I see.
But I think it also depends what kind of sales guy you hire. Like if you hire a guy that is used to cold calling, then that's the thing he's going to do. But if you hire a networker, then he might build relationships and go to all the events and try to find. But I don't know. There's no recipe in this. It takes time.
So you have no sales in Europe now?
In Holland. But that's because I'm going to leave to Bali, and I didn't want to have anybody else. And the guy was not performing, so I fired him. Like, we have an office in the US now. So there's one Indian guy who worked for us for a year, and then from India, and then he moved to New York, so he's selling there. And then in Sweden, we've got a few sales guys.
Is he your partner or just sales?
The guy in Sweden. He still works on a commission basis, but by the end of the year he will become shareholder. So I worked for a long time on a sort of agency model. And again, I tried to replicate that as well in Germany and Denmark, and it didn't work. It's also very hard to find people to do that. Anything else?
Okay, probably that's a good point to wrap it up. And so tomorrow we are going to have a workshop with Hugo about the same topic actually, so just the strategy.
The three tools. So we're going to go through the business model canvas, the Rockefeller habits, this one-page plan, and we're going to really do exercises to fill these forms. To play with the canvas, to fill the one-page plan for your company specifically, so you get sort of tangible ideas that you can really implement. So it's not so much sending information like we're doing now, but you have to use your own brain, start writing stuff down, use sticky notes.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to attend maybe after today, so you can call me or you can contact me, or you can just come to me right now and we can agree, you can just register on the website or whatever, we will be happy to see you tomorrow.
And it would be good to have a few more, right? Because now we have about, how many people do we have tomorrow?
Around 15.
Right.
So this is it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.